Giggling, I entered my class. The Ellie incident lifted my spirits and distracted me from worrying thoughts of my coming conversation with Kagome. Meanwhile, her desk was empty. You're unusually happy early in the morning. Did something happen? Can't hide anything from Kyosuke. Well, yeah, something did. If I were to say I saw Ellie in a swimsuit, he'd probably have a heart attack. And what was it? Nothing important. Keeping secrets, eh? Not a secret, just doesn't matter. Sometimes it seems like you're hiding classified information. Really? Why? Doesn't matter. He replied, mocking me. Okay, whatever. Hey, wait, that's it? Yep. What else was there to talk about? I glanced around the class, looking for Kagome, but she never came. Catherine wasn't there either, but I was surprisingly not too perturbed by her absence. I'll tell you if you want to bet with me. Kyosuke's eyes lit up. What's the bet? You have to keep quiet the whole day today. You're always like that. The bell rang and the teacher entered the class, followed by Kagome. Oh well, there was a full day ahead. The lesson dragged on slowly, especially because I was replaying yesterday evening over and over in my head. Kagome saw me, there's no way she didn't. And most probably she was the one who called the police. I'd say she had a reason for that, at least from her point of view. But if Kagome and this Akira Marayuki really had nothing to hide, then why would she? Because there's a stranger banging on their door at late o'clock at night? It would have been much easier to come out and say they'd never heard of Shinji. At least it would be less suspicious. Ooh. Getting mystery music. As soon as the lesson was over, I jumped up and rushed to Kagome. Couldn't let her leave. We need to talk. Kagome pursed her lips and frowned. What about? She made for a bad actress. Himitsu could teach her a thing or two. You know what I'm talking about. Don't put on an act, please. At least not in class. I don't Fine, whatever. I don't really care what people think of me. But what about you? Kagome cast a quick glance at her classmates, but we ain't caught their interest yet. Let's go. She nodded toward the door. A minute later, we were on the roof. Hell yeah. I'm listening. The arms crossed over her chest, and the focused expression on her face left no doubt that she knew what the conversation was going to be about. Her hair fluttered beautifully in the wind, her silhouette resembling an ancient Japanese warlord intently watching the course of battle from a hill. Just a couple hours prior, I thought there was no way to compare Milady Ellie to the peasant girl Kagome. Now I wasn't so sure. Well? She finally uttered with impatience. Are we going to just stand here? I woke up from my daze and said, Can you explain your behavior yesterday? Kagome's face seemed to be frozen in stone. She looked like a statue. Fine then, I'll talk for you. Yesterday you got scared about some suspicious guy trying to get into your restaurant when it was closed and called the police, right? Is this something you normally do? Keep this up and your establishment will lose every last client. You come to eat sushi and end up in a prison van. And who is Akira Marayuki? Your father? Uncle? Maybe husband? At the word father, Kagome's cheek twinged. She was completely unable to hide her true feelings, and this detached mask was the only solution she knew. Not like it helped much. Father then, I see. Maybe you even know Akira Shinji? Oh, don't worry so much. Just need to talk to him about something. Kagome just kept standing there, looking somewhere past me. In any other situation, her cold glare would make me avert my eyes. But right now, I was too pumped up. Drop it already. What are you hiding? I'm not hiding anything. Kagome finally answered with a slight strain in her voice. And then it dawned on me. What if it wasn't about Nikolai Anakin in particular? What if she was just scared? Listen, don't think that... you have nothing to be afraid of. By the looks of it, I had shown weakness, and Kagome's expression changed immediately. Afraid of you? You wish. I have no idea what your speech here was about. I just didn't want to have this farce in class. That's why I came with you. Ah, so that's how you talk now. I knew she was lying. And she knew I knew. The only question was if she had the confidence to stand her ground. What was this seemingly quiet, unsociable girl hiding? Now, if that's all... Kagome headed to the exit, but I peered in her way. That's not all, Yomura-san. Please, do deign to explain yourself. Or do you want to say you don't live on the waterfront in a restaurant called Gifts of the Sea, and that you didn't see me there yesterday? Exactly. Her response was unexpectedly calm. We came to a dead end. I couldn't start torturing her now, could I? After you. I took a step back and gestured toward the exit. Kagome quickly, but not too quickly, walked past without sparing me as much as another glance. One thing was clear. She had something to hide. And I was trying to find out what my father had been doing at Kobayashi Corporation, following Ichinosi's lead, looking for this Akira Shinji. And in my search, I ran into a classmate of mine, Iwamura Kagome, Jesus. A shy, at least at first glance, timid girl whose only dream was clearly for people to stop bothering her. Where's the logic in that? Maybe all of this truly was a wondrous coincidence. She acted like she did because she was scared. I returned to class and was immediately interrogated by Kyosuke. Nick, where'd you go with Iwamura? None of your business, I snarled. I had exactly zero desire to make up excuses he would believe. You chose an odd target, Casanova. Kyosuke smirked and bumped me in the shoulder. Bugger off. I snapped and he immediately disappeared into thin air. The next lesson started. No, I couldn't believe it. This couldn't be just a coincidence. Kagome was somehow connected to Akira Shinji, or at least knew something. I decided to follow her today. The school day dragged on painfully slowly. During the breaks, I chatted with Kyosuke about without letting my eyes off Kagome. I didn't even go to lunch to keep her in sight. But I didn't notice anything suspicious, and why would I? Finally, the school day came to its end. The students started to get ready to go home. I quickly threw my books into my backpack and ran out of the class. The last person I needed to meet now was Himitsu, and she was certainly about to show up. She would distract, hinder me, and then Kagome would surely slip away. I hid behind a lamppost on the other side of the street, across from the school gates. The minutes of waiting felt terribly slow, my eyes darting to the clock over and over. According to it, barely any time had passed, but I couldn't escape the thought that Kagome knew what was going on, and was long on her way home, her tail left behind. At some point, the flow of students started to grow thinner, the last lesson ending a good half an hour ago. Quite a girl she turned out to be. I lingered for a couple seconds more and quickly crossed the street. I need to get back and check. Something could have held Kagome back. But there she was. Iwamura ducked out from behind the gates and headed toward the station at a calm pace. I virtually froze in place, my nerves and muscles strained to the limit, unable to move. I couldn't let her notice me. I made a titanic effort and walked past Kagome, giving her just a fleeting glance. Meanwhile, she didn't look at me at all. As always. Well, that's better than nothing. At that moment, I didn't want to think that this whole time she'd been watching me, waiting for a mistake. Well, why did I even assume Kagome was partaking in this espionage of mine? Although being paranoid didn't automatically mean I was being watched. I wasn't being watched. The distance between the two of us was growing rapidly, like between two cars in a math problem that left the same starting point going in two different directions. But this problem also had a common point of destination, the gifts of the sea. At least that's what I wanted to believe. The fastest way to get to its district would be the subway, and it was obvious what station Kagome would use. Whether I was playing private investigator alone, or it was a game for two, she wasn't about to break into a run. Meanwhile, I had no problem choosing a different route and getting to the station before Kagome. The Tokyo subway warranted a separate mention. Of course, it didn't look nearly as majestic as the Stalin's Empire style of the metro, and that's because the main point of the capital's transportation system was functionality. An enormous number of stations and line changes, hundreds of kilometers of railways, integration with the suburban railway. Himitsu and I go to school on foot, so I bother with this human anthill all that often. I guess somewhere deep inside it scared me, as did many things Japanese. Starting with the fact that, standing in a carriage, I was a good head and a half taller than the majority of people there. But this time around, the crowds of people were actually beneficial to me. It'd be harder for Kagome to notice me, even if she were to look. This time, I didn't have to wait long. Iwamura arrived at the station's entrance right on time. Maybe she really was held back by something at school. I boarded the carriage next to hers. So far, everything was going according to plan. We got off at the exact same station I had been on yesterday. Gotcha. Now she wouldn't be able to talk her way out of it. The narrow streets were giving way to each other. It was getting harder and harder not to lose sight of Kagome, considering that it was dangerous to get too close. One turn, another, and the only thing I found in front of myself were lines of fish merchants and a bunch of local kids. I stopped and looked around. Iwamura was nowhere to be found. For fuck's sake. I swore aloud, earning an array of disapproving glances from the old woman at a stall. How well-mannered of you. A familiar sigh resounded from behind. It was Kagome. How? But... It was useless to say anything now, so I just waited for her to tell me something. You know, I could have just ignored you, Kagome said thoughtfully, but you don't look like someone to be worried about. So I'm asking you straight, what do you want? She became herself again, that haughty, annoyed expression back on her face. Man, how much our situation had changed in just a couple of hours. There on the roof, I was interrogating her, convinced of my righteousness. And what now? I've been following a schoolgirl for quite a while, in Japan no less. If she were to go to the police, my problems wouldn't look so important compared to the possibility of a harassment lawsuit on my hands. I've told you already. But I had to put a brave face on this sorry business. Or do you think I believed you just like that? A slight smile appeared on Kagome's face. Aren't you persistent? Of course. But I've already said everything I wanted. And there went her cold disdain again. Why the performance then? You could have just called the police like yesterday. How did you even notice me so easily? It's a habit. A habit? Habit for what? You wouldn't understand. She suddenly lashed out. You don't get harassed every single day. Harassed? Why would anyone harass me? What are you even talking about? I flared up as well, and even though I noticed Kagome grow sadder, didn't think much of it. It doesn't matter. She stomped her foot, which for some reason was very strongly reminded me of Himitsu. Only it was as simple with Kagome as it was with her. We aren't finished. We are. Okay. Kagome walked quickly along the waterfront, clearly heading to the gifts of the sea. I was trying not to lose her, lagging a couple meters behind. As you can see, I'm not going anywhere, I shouted, probably louder than I should have. She stopped abruptly and facing away from me, said with strain in her voice, "What do you all want from me? Why can't you just leave me alone? It's not like my life isn't difficult enough without you. You have no idea how normal people live. What do I have to do with any of it? I'm actually a pretty normal guy." Kagome didn't respond. Listen, I understand it's not easy for you. Those punks at school and all that. But believe me, I'm not like them at all. I'm not here to bully you. It just so happened that you are most likely somehow connected to a matter that directly concerns me. Kagome didn't respond. God damn it, do you think I'd mess with you if I had a choice? Yeah, sure, it's hard for you. I'm just here having the time of my life. Oh, whatever. You don't want to talk? Fine. Turned around and started to quickly walk to the station. Wait. Kagome's voice, barely discernible behind the sound of the sea, reached me. Well? I fired a quick question, walking back to her. You first. Yumura said, stumbling, avoiding my eyes. Me first what? First you tell me what you need from Akira Moriyuki or Akira Shinji. What's your business with them? At the moment, Kagome wasn't giving me any cause for concern, so why couldn't I tell her the truth? Or at least part of it. I recently found out that Akira Shinji used to work together with my father and another man at Kobayashi Corporation. I have some questions to ask him. And what are those questions? Now Kagome was curious. Sorry, I don't want to say it's none of your concern, although maybe that's the case. It's just... I just don't want to put you in danger. But to be honest, I didn't really give a damn about her. I do. These thoughts evoked a vicious feeling of shame somewhere deep inside of me. It's personal information. Oh, so picking my brains for info is okay, but your highness may keep any secrets he pleases from the pitiful peasants. No, that's not what I meant at all. Kagome returned to square one. She was so fixated on her own problems, she exploded each time anything reminded her of them. Fine. I simply had no other choice. I recently learned there was a lot I didn't know about my father's work. Well, I didn't really know anything. I received a strange note. Strange people have been calling me in the middle of the night. So I'm trying to figure out what's going on. I managed to find father's old colleague. He recommended me to look for Akira Shinji, who was supposed to know more. A note? A call? What are you trying to drag me into? I'm not dragging you into anything. Just a minute ago, you knew exactly nothing about any of it and were perfectly fine. Well, that was a dumb thing to say. I mean, you have nothing to fear. You're not connected to me or my father in any way. Yes, but... God, what have I done to deserve this? I am connected to Akira. Both Akiras. I gave Kagome a surprised look. Was it really so simple? She looked like she'd already said everything she wanted and was now just intently studying the waterfront's pavement. Iwamura-san? Was that too formal? She did, however, respond. Akira Shinji's my father. He really did work for Kobayashi Corporation, but then he was laid off and has to help my granddad now, Akira Moriyuki, in the restaurant. And what's so secret about this that you couldn't tell me before? Just because! Kagome scowled. But why do you and your dad have different surnames? Me and my mother broke up when I was little. I've been living with her under her maiden name. Mom died recently and I moved in with Dad. I'm very sorry. Yeah, sure you are. Hiyomura grinned. I mean, you're right. I didn't know your mother, don't know your father, or even really you. What do you want me to say? Would you rather I kept silence of showing fake sympathy? It's just the proper thing to do. Kagome wasn't ready to agree with anything, ever, but she knew I was right here, so she just ignored my remark and kept talking. I don't know anything about Father's work, but he's not that old. I'm sure he'd find a job in his field, but... No one would hire him? I guessed. She nodded. It was all very strange. Well, thank you, Sherlock Holmes. Am I to be your Dr. Watson? She pulled the tips of her hair under her nose, made them look like a mustache. I love her. I involuntarily smiled. Well, if you want to be Watson, I'm okay with it. Onwards we go to Gifts of the Sea. No. Kagome responded immediately, returning to her normal disposition. Why not? There's nothing for you to do there. I'll talk with Father and tell you everything afterward. Don't you think this whole thing concerns me a bit too? What do you suppose you will even do there? You don't know anything yourself. Well, that's true, but... That's that then. See you. Kagome, wait. I grabbed her by the arm and immediately felt her tremble. It was more unnatural to her. I wondered, the physical contact or being addressed by her first name? Sorry, I didn't mean to. Kagome froze in place, her arms thrown around herself. She somehow seemed to grow even smaller. Hey, come on, it's not that bad. You aren't going to leave me alone, are you? She asked quietly. As you can see. Fine, let's go. Getting to Gifts of the Sea took a bit more time than expected. Probably because yesterday I'd gotten back to the station mostly at a running pace. Did you really have to call the police yesterday? Kagome shrugged. We may have a common interest here, so don't act like... Don't act like that. She raised her head and gave me a surprised look. What do you mean? Act like what? Whatever. Forget it. I waved my hand so hard I accidentally hit a cart that had been passing by, and a fat fish flopped down into the road, slid down the pavement, and only miraculously didn't hit anyone. God damn it. I ran after it, into a fat lady in a kimono, the force of the collision pushing me to the side. Maneuvering between people, I finally caught up to the runaway fish, but when I came back to Kagome, the cart was long gone. Are you all right in the head? The girl burst out laughing with a genuine heartfelt laugh, momentarily forgetting about everything that had happened between the two of us, and anything that could still happen. Embarrassed, I turned away, feeling myself blush. Here, for you. I stretched the fish out to Kagome. A nice mackerel, thanks. She knowingly examined the fish. Just don't expect me to cook something out of it. I didn't, really. You've got a friend for that. Catherine? Catherine again? The one with the red hair? Did she diet or something? What do you know about Himitsu? By virtue of not being blind. Well, I guess. Must be good at cooking too? Must be. She gave a short reply and immediately added, Here we are. Today the restaurant of Kagome's grandfather turned out to be open and packed with people. Well, I haven't exactly earned a treat, but I'm really hungry. Hope I can at least get some food at your place if I pay for it. Wait here. I'll talk with Father and come back. Hiyomura said in a tone that would suffer no objections. Your wish is my command, mistress. I sat down on the border stones, drooling at the smells that reached me from inside the restaurant. At first glance, Kagome didn't have it that bad. Her grandfather owned a restaurant. Her father had held a decently high position at Kobayashi Corporation until recently. Why was she treated so badly? Even if you can't stand up for yourself, the social status always helps. She wasn't at the level of the spoiled douches from our school, sure, but also nowhere near the bottom of society. Plenty for your thoughts, young man. Addressing me was a pink-cheeked, noticeably drunk, quite short old man. God damn, that was a lot of adjectives. Just waiting for someone here. A girlfriend, eh? The smile on his face seemed to grow even wider as the narrow line of his eyes almost completely disappeared. You could say so. A friend in need. Young blood. The old man puttered off, humming an old Japanese song about Katya under his breath. I caught myself thinking that I reacted quite calmly to him. Probably just because I currently had other things on my mind. I was about to go into Gifts of the Sea when his doors flung open and Kagome ran out of them, clearly agitated. They took my father! Oh, shit. What? Who took him? She looked at me aghast, her breath wavy. They took Father. Who took your father? Took where? Her eyes flashed and Kagome took a step back. It's you. It's all your fault. Hold on a minute, calm down and think logically. If it's my fault, why would I put on this act? Calling for the voice of reason was useless. Come on, think about it. I'd be the primary suspect. On top of it, I was threatened too. I just wanted to talk. I didn't want to scare you. I'm sorry. I made a low Japanese bow. It could be that this happened to your father because of me. I don't know what reaction I expected, but Kagome's expression grew softer, although she still looked grim, like Mount Fuji before a storm. Grandpa says 2 decently dressed men came today. I immediately remembered the man who would be following me a couple days ago. They asked to talk to Father. Grandpa doesn't know what they talked about. Then Dad left with them and told Grandpa not to worry. How could I possibly not worry? I took a moment to think. Kagome was clearly right. He said there was a reason to worry would be putting it lightly. At that moment I was convinced everything that had happened recently was linked. The note, the call, Ichinose, the kidnapping of Kagome's father. They were hiding something and covering their tracks well. But then why didn't they just kill me? Who would pay attention to the disappearance of an orphan schoolboy? No, there was clearly something more important going on. We have to call the police, Kagome said resolutely. If things are as you say, I don't think the police will help us in any way here. What would you even know? Think for yourself. We're talking about Kobayashi Corporation, understand? Think about the whole of Japan under their control. I'm going to call them, and you can do whatever you want. Ooh, I actually don't know what the right choice is on this one. I hate to interrupt the OST with this, but I gotta. We'll go for the try to stop. Hold on a second. I'm telling you, you'll only make the situation worse. I didn't want to say that she at least out her grandfather, but that was the truth. I need to wait and think it through. But Kagome had no intention of listening to me. I felt an inexplicable desire to do my own thing. I was absolutely sure she was wrong. Wait. I grabbed her arm again and jerked her to the street. Let go, don't touch me. Her voice was, oh, I did not do quiet. Her voice was quiet, even too quiet against the drunken hubbub of the restaurant. I understand how you feel, but acting on emotion will only make things worse. I promise we'll find your father. I dragged you into this and all. Kagome stopped trying to break free. Fine. In reality, we've just got common interests. We find your father, he answers my questions. But right now, you need to calm down. She stood pressed against the doors, her head hanging low. Understand what I'm saying? Uh-huh. Kagome made a slight nod. What do we do now? Oh, so now it was us? Well, I really don't want to draw attention to her choice of words right now. Did your grandfather say anything else? He's not young, she replied after a long pause. He gets things wrong, if at all. If not for me and a couple other employees, the restaurant would have long gone under. Really? Looks to be thriving from the outside. Kagome smiled sadly. But still, it all started with you, she said in a serious tone, though not angrily. Post hoc ergo propter hoc. I'm guessing that's some kind of Latin. Whatever's happening right now is just the consequence of something bigger. Me, you, your father, we're all just pawns in some game. Do you even hear yourself? Pawns in some game? You're talking like... Like? I don't know. I don't want anything to do with it. My life isn't sunshine and rainbows as it is. You may not be directly at fault here, but if you only kept away from us... I was looking at her and just couldn't understand why she wasn't crying. If Himitsu were in her place, the tears would have already been flowing like a river at our first meeting at the station. Even Catherine wouldn't have managed to hold on for this long. To tell the truth, I could hardly understand how I managed to retain a seemingly cool head myself. Meanwhile, Kagome... Yeah, she was angry. She acted irrationally and even foolishly. At the same time, she persistently held her own. It may not have been a direct fight with a looming threat, not a charge with a drawn sword, but... this reaction was more akin to the silent protest of an ancient cliff. Beaten by hurricanes, whipped by the winds, it would remain in its place even 1,000 years later, without advancing even a single step forward and without surrendering a single centimeter. She was used to this life, and had climbed into her orderly world, bringing chaos and destruction. Fine. You're right. I shouldn't have gotten you involved like this. I turned around and was about to leave, but Kagome stopped me. Oh, no you don't. If you got me involved, you should take responsibility. You have something in mind? Yeah, I've got an idea. We were talking about Kobayashi Corporation, right? That's where we'll start. But how do you intend to... Meet me tomorrow in the park across from their office downtown. But... And now I need to go to work. How can you even think about that at a time like this? I was genuinely surprised. What about it? Who will help Grandpa if not me? Father wasn't of much help. He was good with abstract ideas and theoretical sciences, but when it came to slicing cabbage... Kagome let out a heavy sigh. Tomorrow, at noon. Yeah, okay. She disappeared behind the door, and I heard drunken shouts of, Kagome-chan! Kagome-chan!